Hey guys, you might notice a slightly different surrounding. I'm actually filming in our master bath because Pete's watching television and I don't want to disturb him. This is a video about what do you do when you have unexpected absences from home, but you like to cook from scratch. This is something I found is a problem lately. So there's been many times when I've broken a hip, broken my wrist, gone on a little trip, whatever, and left Pete here alone. And because now I cook more in a kind of more sophisticated, fresh manner, the things that I freeze and save tend to be ingredients, not meals. So I'm trying to switch over to having frozen meals in the freezer. With that in mind, I did my regular shopping, and then I hit a bunch of sales that would allow me to put together some meal planning and that would let me do batch cooking. And now I don't have room. So I am going through my regular shopping supplies and things that are in my pantry that I need to get rid of and making dinner that way tonight. So I'm going to use a rotisserie chicken, and I'll show you some of the other things, just stuff that I've grabbed either from my regular shopping of fresh ingredients to stuff in the back of the pantry that needs to get used. And then this will help me clear out and make big dishes. I've already got probably 4 completed meals, not a lot, but 4 completed meals in there for him. So if I was gone 4 evenings, he'd have dinners that he could pop in the microwave. So that's kind of where I'm at. I'll try not to do too much talking. I know I do a lot of that. So maybe 30-second talking segments. How about that? Okay, see you in the kitchen very soon. Okay, so I was going through my refrigerator and looking for things that needed to go. And here's what I came up with. I have some half and half, but I use that every day in my coffee. But in the freezer, I had frozen blocks of half and half that I've kept because they were about to go bad. So I had my frozen half and half. I had some butter, which I've already used. I have an old pie crust. That's not bad yet, but will be soon. Some cream and potato soup. Remember I told you I was getting rid of my cream of soups. 2 different bottles of white wine. And I had some mushrooms that were getting kind of old, so I thought I'd chop them up and cook them. And then I had some fresh green beans, and I have a rotisserie chicken in the oven. I've had it in the oven at 200 degrees. I'm gonna move my wheelchair, for about an hour. And I've done that so it'll just warm up slowly and be easy to pick off the meat. And I've decided to make a chicken pot pie. So the first thing I want to do is to get my cream sauce started because it's going to need time to simmer and really get flavor. So what I've done is I've browned some butter and some olive oil. I know it doesn't look like it because I browned the butter. And I am going to heat up turn this back up, put it on about medium high, get some more heat under it again. And then I had my mushrooms that I chopped up. And one of the things I've had time to do since the last time I made any videos is to chop up a bunch of onions, and I keep them in the freezer. They're all diced, ready to go, and I just grab a handful. So I'm going to saute these in the butter and oil mixture right now. So my onions and mushrooms have been sauteing in the butter mixture. I'm going to add a teaspoon of garlic, I don't want it to burn, so I'm going to put in just a teaspoon right now and stir that around. And then I want to make a roux with all of this. So with all that oil, it needs to be soaked up, so I'm just going to put in flour and stir that around and make a roux. So I've added about a tablespoon of flour to make this roux, and I'm letting it brown to get rid of the flour taste. It's going to kind of hang out there for a second. And then I want to start with my actual sauce. So the next thing that I'm going to do is add my homemade broth, about 3 tablespoons. So I added about what turned out to be a 1/4 cup of broth. Now I need to stir to incorporate it into the flour. All those flavors are coming together. That's going to, you can see it start to thicken. So now that it's starting to thicken with the broth, we're going to pour in all of my wine. So what I have left are just dribs and drabs of wine. So we're going to pour those in next. So there's one. There's my homemade broth. And we're gonna probably end up adding a lot more flour in a slurry, but we're just gonna kind of make it as we go. So we're gonna see how thick it gets. We're gonna keep it boiling. It is right now, I'm turning it down just a little, take it from medium to low, so that now it'll just simmer. So here's, oh, this, I can really smell the wine. You want the alcohol to burn off. So this is gonna be the gravy for our chicken pot pie. I still have to pick all the meat off of what's left of our rotisserie chicken. And I need to now make this the white sauce that a chicken pot pie traditionally has. And for that, in the back of my cupboard, I found a cream of potato soup. And I'm going to add that in and some water or broth, stir it around, and we'll see what it looks like. So come back and join me in a Be a Julie video if I didn't forget something. I need to throw a block of my half and half in there as well. So that goes in first, then the soup. So I've turned off the heat. I've added the cream of potato soup, which I need to whisk in. Once that's whisked together, I've microwaved a few of my fresh green beans for 4 minutes. I'll stir those in and about a cup of the peas and carrots and keep it off the heat while I strip the chicken from the bones and work on the crust. So I want to take advantage of all my time. So before I strip the chicken, something happened there. Before I strip the chicken, I'm going to prepare my pie crust pan and get it in the oven. That way I won't be wasting any time and I won't be on my feet longer than I need. So I haven't gotten around to getting the rounds yet, but I do put my chicken pot pie in a springform pan because I like the fact that it's so deep and it's easier to clean than a casserole dish. And I need some scissors to draw my circle, and then I'm going to put my pie crust in and bring it up on the sides, and I'll show you that. The other reason I like the springform pan is that the bottom comes out. So if you have cheap parchment paper like I do, it makes it very easy just to score the circle with your scissors. With the hand it's a little bit difficult. You just push around the edge with your hand and the scissors, and that scores the circle. So as you can see, my cheap paper trick works just fine. There's really no reason to buy the fancy rounds. They cost a lot of money. This was 25 cents and took 30 seconds. My pie crust has been sitting at room temperature for about 2 hours, so it's very soft and pliable. All I'm going to do now is push it down into the dish and up to the top of the sides. I have on my gloves. I am going to take my chicken carcass, separate it into 3 parts. Chicken skin, chicken cartilage, and small bits of meat that are good for the dog. Chicken pieces that are great that I want to put into my casserole, and then picked bare bones, hopefully, and tough pieces of cartilage for my bone broth. So next time you see this, it will be divided into 3 piles. So here's my 3 piles. That's for my bone broth. This is all the meat that I picked off of a quarter of a chicken, which, by the way, was steamed. It's a rotisserie chicken. It was steamed in my bone broth, about a 1/4 cup. It makes it really easy to pick off the bone. So my bone broth goes back into my bone broth and we just recycle. This goes to the dogs. Our dogs eat wonderfully around here. This is their doggy bin, if I can open it with one hand. You can see I made broth the other day, and this is all the meat and veggies and things that were in the broth. I will mix this together, mix that with their food. I throw in a little, it's upside down, canned pumpkin because it's good for them and they love it, and it's very, very cheap. And that's how I keep my dogs fed. Very healthy for them too. So here's my filling ready to go into the chicken pot pie. I'm gonna let it sit here for a while and just let all the flavors marinate. Then I'll put the pie together and I'll show it to you. I'm hoping, if all goes well, I will have maybe a cup left of filling, and I can use that and pour it over some rice later this week, or freeze the little container and then use some 90-second rice in the microwave and just make a quick dinner for Pete and me. We'll see what's left. So I'm back and ready to assemble my pie. Hoo-hoo, Pete says. So I'm going to start my oven and turn it up to, the pie crust should be baked at 400 degrees, and the crescent rolls that I'm going to use on top should be baked at 375. So I tend to kind of go in the middle, and I'll set my oven for about 385 or so. So we'll do that right now. Bake. Start that preheating. Now I've got my pie crust here, and I've put it all in the springform pan. I'm going to take my chicken mixture, put it into the pie crust, and then I'm going to get my crescent rolls and make the top crust. So as soon as I get the filling loaded into the crust, I'll show you the next. So there's the bottom crust all loaded. While I was off camera, I tasted it, and it needed some extra spices, which I had not added yet. So I did put in a teaspoon of curry, a teaspoon of poultry seasoning, and a little bit more salt and pepper, just to my personal taste. The next step now, I have these crescent rolls. They're the jumbo crescent rolls, so I hope they're gonna work. We'll see. They've got some bad ratings online, which I didn't know when I bought them, but we're gonna give it a try. And what I'm going to do is put the fat side of the crescent roll down here, flip it over the side, and once all 8 are there, I will then flip them over and meet them in the middle. So I'll show you kind of how that looks step by step. Well, now I know why it has such bad ratings. In the past, when I've made this with regular crescent rolls, it looks like a lovely star as the thick stuff is in the middle and the little points come out like a star, and oh, what a mess this is. But I'm going to do my best to fold it back over and make a little pie crust on top. So I'll show you how that looks. What a horrible mess this is. We won't buy this kind of dough again, but I bet it's gonna taste delicious. Well, it is not the prettiest chicken pie I have ever made, but the biggest problem might be that the dough is thick in some places and thin in others. In this instance, I might recommend just getting a crescent sheet, which would be the same thickness all around and might be a little bit better. This was a bargain brand and I hit the sale, and so I'm willing to try to make the best of it. It's gonna taste good, it just may not be pretty. And you know what? Pretty doesn't win the prize when you're cooking for everybody at home. So there's my chicken pot pie, and I'm very, very lucky because I have enough to freeze up, and we'll pour this over some rice one night. I'll use like maybe a 90-second rice packet, and we'll have lunch or dinner with this as leftovers. No couscous. Poor Pete. No couscous. Maybe couscous. We'll see. I will show you our pie when it comes out of the oven. I originally set my oven to 385. I've placed my pie into the oven, and I need it to be warm all the way through. I want it to cook a little longer. So now that it's up to 385, I'm actually gonna reduce it to 350. And I am going to set my initial timer for 20 minutes, and we'll check it in 20 minutes. Well, I've been watching this. Initially, I set it at 385, turned it down to 350. I was going to leave it in for 20 minutes. After 20 minutes, it still was pretty much uncooked, so I put it in for another 7, and I would say that is just about perfect. I might want it to get a little bit browner in the back, so I think I will put it in for another just 2 minutes just to watch. So this gives you an idea of how you kind of have to really keep an eye on stuff. So I'm going to close this up, give it 2 more minutes, and when I start to plate it up, I'll show you how it goes. Bye, pie. So there, I think, is what I would call the perfect pot pie. I ended up keeping it in the oven for about 35 minutes, checking on it regularly, but I think you can hear it's got a nice hard crust. I think it's hot in the middle. I'm going to serve it up, so we're going to cut into it here. Oh, that looks delicious. And I am going to plate it up, and I will have Pete and I taste it for you. And we'll get back to you once this is in our dishes. So this is how we get 3 to 4 meals out of a rotisserie chicken. We had half of it last night. I used the other half to make the whole gravy stuff. The pot pie will last 2 nights, and then the stuff over the rice will last a night. So we're getting a lot out of it. Let's see how Pete likes it. So what do you think?
I like the crunchy crackers.
The crust? Can you taste anything else in it? Any of the spices? What do you taste, you think? Can't tell?
Can't tell, I don't know.
Just tastes good.
Just I know it tastes very good.
Okay, so like I said, you can cook on a budget even with really bad crescent roll dough. All right, guys, have a really good night. Oh my gosh, this is so good. And I still have 2/3 of a pie left. I will probably take 1/3 of it and package it up in some foil and freeze it, so I will have dinners ready in the freezer. That's the whole point. And the other half we'll eat in a day or two. The other 1/3, I guess, we'll eat in a day or two. I still have my sausage and some other things in the refrigerator to eat as well. So I'm well on my way to having pre-made dinners ready for either one of us if we're having a bad night.